You want to tell me? You guys go scatter this bed. Wait. Same design, different. Huh? Wine here, Moshe Brown.
Mute your
Wine.
mic.
What I'm saying.
Good morning, class.
Good morning,
Good
ma'am.
morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can,
good
ma'am.
morning, ma'am.
All right. That's fantastic. I hope you had a good week.
Yes, we did. And a good rain.
So, the rain, right?
Yes, ma'am.
The rain is something. Okay. So let's get started. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we come crafting brief
Okay.
message.
Fantastic. Now, this is what we're going to start with. Say you have been given an assignment. The assignment is due, but you haven't finished. And you want to ask for more time. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to write in the chat in 15 words. Requests for additional time for your assignment. You have been given an assignment, you have not finished. You want to ask for more time. Make that request in the chat in 15 words, maximum. Very brief. Let's see what we get.
Ma'am, can you please repeat the question?
I can't see your answer. I said that you have been given an assignment. This is a class exercise, right? You have been given an assignment and the assignment is due, but you haven't finished, so you need more time. So I want you to make a request for more time. Ask me to give you more time in maximum of 15 words. I want it very brief. Okay. So somebody says, good morning, ma. Request for additional time to submit assignment. Okay. Could I please get an extension for the assignment due to unforeseen circumstances? Okay. Please, I hereby request for additional 5 minutes to wrap up these files. Okay. I hope you can all see the charts, what's going on there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Complete. Okay. Somebody says, kindly grant me additional time to complete and submit. Okay. Due to unforeseen circumstances, I couldn't finish up on time. Okay. Oh, due to technical glitch, I could not finish my assignment. Okay. Okay. I want us to quickly notice something in these responses. Let's go to some that I would make reference to. Now, this is not to point at anybody in particular. We are just doing a review of the messages. So I will just speak to the messages. I won't call anybody's name. So we have this where, let me start from the beginning, if I can find that first one. Okay, so look at this message. Good morning, my request for additional time to submit. The first things I noticed there is a punctuation issue. The second one goes, could I please get an extension? There is no greeting. The third one, please, I hereby request, is written in all caps. Are you following?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This one, please, my kindly request additional time to complete. Okay, let me move to one that's, okay, this is another one without an opening. Kindly grant me additional time to complete and submit my assignment. I would sincerely appreciate it. No punctuation at the end. Another person starts in the same manner due to an unforeseen circumstances. There's a bit of grammar issue there. This one says, kindly grant me more time to complete and submit my assignment. Full stop, straight to the point. So, okay, this is another one. This one says, this is also a punctuation issue. There's a small letter I here. Due to technical glitch, I could not finish my assignment. I am writing for extension of 5 min more. 5 MIN is not the abbreviation for minutes, but we get the message. Now, what are we trying to establish here? Usually short messages are very popular. They are very common. We are engaged in short messages, brief messages all the time. But one of the fundamental mistakes people make is that they feel that because it's brief message, you just comes to your head, write this thing, and then you type, and then you send. People don't seem to pay as much attention to brief messages as they do to comprehensive messages. Because we are so used to, brief messages happening so fast and so frequently, sometimes, many times, in fact, we don't pay attention to a lot of things. While it is true that it may be easy to figure out the meaning of the message, sometimes some simple errors, whether it's punctuation error or full-blown grammatical error, can alter the meaning of the message, and therefore it becomes a problem. Sometimes as simple as omitting its annotation can make the receiver on the other end upset. Why would you just pick up your phone and type, "Oh, could you please give us more time?" You should be a bit more composed. So as important as brief messages are, they can actually land people in big trouble just by sending 5 words, 10 words, 15 words. That is how important brief messages are. We think they are very brief, they are very sharp, straight to the point, no need to waste time, no need to think too much, no need to do plenty of research, just quickly send something. But quickly sending something can either end up being positive or having negative consequences. And so this is why it is extremely important. Whether you're sending a comprehensive document or you're sending a brief message, it is absolutely important that you apply the same rigor, the same principles of communication. Is that fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's get into today's class, right? We're looking at how to craft brief messages. This can range from emails, memos, instant messages, and social media posts. We are used to these things every day. But how do we do it right? How do we ensure that whatever we are sending out there lands properly and we get the right feedback? So we're going to be looking at the general characteristics and purpose of brief messages. In your early sessions, I believe study session 1, you must have treated importance of business messages, different purpose of business messages. But specifically, when it comes to brief messages, how do these things apply? Then we'll be going into specific messages, emails, memos. What are the conventions? What etiquette guides brief messages? When is a brief message done right, and what can make it go wrong? So, we said brief messages are short and focused. Most of the time, because of the nature of the message, they're usually either to make a request, to respond to something or to someone, to quickly inform about something, or do an update. You don't use brief messages to go into elaborate conversations or elaborate information, just something quick. You want to quickly make a request. Oh, I need an extension for time. You want to quickly respond to something. Okay, noted. Thank you. Ruth wants to send me notification for the next class. Usually a brief message is all that is required. So when we talk about emails, we're used to emails. But in the business world, email is even more important because email is a legal document. For brief messages, email is the most sophisticated in that class. It is the most used, whether it is formal or semi-formal, email is the dominant channel because email can be tracked. If you do instant message, for instance, your phone may crash, WhatsApp message may disappear, you know. But email is always citable, it's always referenceable. Or this email, and then people can come on the same email. You have an email trail, different people can join in, it can be forwarded, it can be archived for years to come, it can be referenced. The memo is another type of brief message that's used in organizations. The memo usually is internal. While you may be able to send an email to an external entity, please mute your mic. While you may be able to send an email to an external entity, whether a person or an organization, memos are strictly an internal document, and there are conventions for both of this. Instant messaging is your real-time. When you chat on WhatsApp, that's instant messaging. You get your message across immediately. The person sees it almost immediately, on the person and the availability, and can get the response almost immediately. Social media post is the last category that we're going to be looking at. Why is this important? Nearly every person has realized the importance of social media communication. Some businesses are fully and fully on, whether on WhatsApp, on Instagram, on Facebook, their transactions are completely digital. So whether your business is a
Excuse me,
large
the sound
corporation,
is not coming out properly.
She knows now.
No,
is
she
it better
doesn't.
now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I said that the social media is the last category we'll be treating. And it is so important to today's world. I mean, 10 years ago, it wasn't like that. 20 years ago, it wasn't like that. But today, some businesses are fully on social media. The entire operation is on social media. The entire communication framework is on social media. They are buying and selling on social media. So whether your organization is at that level or at the level where you simply use social media as a communication platform, brief messages are something that you cannot avoid in the 21st century. So let's look at email in particular. What are the conventions for email? We said email can be both internal and external. You know what internal and external communication is. The difference between internal and external. What makes email stand out? Why is email dominant? Apart from the fact that it cuts across internal and external communication, there are conventions that give it weight. Every time you have to compose an email, there are some basic things you must consider. Of course, the 7 C's apply in every communication situation, whether you're writing comprehensive documents or you're writing brief messages. In the case of email in particular, because this is a brief message, 1, attention span is slim, 2, email will probably be read digitally. People are not naturally into the business of printing an email to be able to see what you have typed or you have written. It's going to be digitally communicated, digitally digested, and then the response will also come digitally. And so there are basic things that you need to be aware of. Is the sound okay?
Yes, ma, it's okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit clear.
It's okay, ma.
Okay, that's fine. So first of all, before you send an email, you need to ask yourself, do I really need to send an email? There is nothing more annoying than to receive an email that does not concern you or that does not require an email. If, for instance, you want to quickly get my attention, Ruth sent me a message this morning. Oh, we are ready for the class. Imagine if she had sent me that information via email. I probably would see it after the class, in spite of the fact that I check my email regularly. So, platform is important. What channel is best for a particular short message is part of the things that must be considered before you choose a platform. Remember when we treated business skills and strategies, we talked about skills and strategies and then the writing process. Yes. When we treated the writing process, we talked about channel. At your planning stage, you decide what channel is best for this message. It's the same thing with short messages. Not every channel is optimal for every short message. So before you send an email, ask yourself, is email the appropriate channel? Or am I just clogging somebody's mailbox? Will the person quickly see this message if it's supposed to be an urgent message? Or alternatively, if I absolutely need to send an email, should I also follow up with perhaps instant messaging? It's typical in business situation. We know that the email gives it a formal legal backing. That framework is important. You have something really important to say. You want it to have a permanent record. You want it to carry the official weight of the organization. So yes, email becomes the most important platform to use. But if it's also something urgent, you want the person to quickly see the email and respond to it, or you want to communicate that this thing is absolutely important, give it priority treatment, you can follow up with another kind of brief message. So that's the first thing. Determine whether the email is absolutely necessary. Secondly, who needs to receive it? Some people feel that it give them more organizational weight when you copy everybody in the email. So you're supposed to send an email to one person, but then you want everybody to know that you are working. So you copy this, copy that, copy this, copy that. And people who have no business with your email are receiving emails and wondering, so what am I supposed to do about it? How you take consign me? Why would you copy me? I'm just tag me along and something. And it's the same attitude on social media posts. You do a social media post, people who have no business with your post, because you want your post to trend, you want people to see it, you want to feel like, oh, you are saying something important online. You just begin to tag the whole world. Tag this, tag that, add this person, add that person, mention everybody, so that it's a bad brief message etiquette. Send your message to the person who needs to receive your message. Do not copy people who do not need to be copied. That shows respect for people. This is very important. After you have sent a message, you are thinking, okay, so the reply, has it come? If there is no reply, there's no communication. Remember, we said communication is two-way. What is the purpose of that email you have sent? What is the outcome that you are expecting? What feedback are you expecting to get? What response are you anticipating? Before you send the email is when you should think about it, because that is what will guide what you are writing in the email. The same thing with planning process of writing. At your planning stage, you're asking, what is the purpose of this thing I want to write? What is the outcome that I'm expecting? How do I want the receiver to behave? What feedback do I want to get from this? So these are important considerations when you're using the email as a platform for brief messages. Many times, depending on your organization, some organizations have email policies. If you have a particular email policy, whether it ranges from the text font, the way you write your email signature, who must be included in a particular email. Some organizations have specific policies for email. If your organization has a policy, please adhere to the policy. If your organization does not have an email policy, you can then use your own best judgment to decide what to do and how to package your email. Spacing, organization, everything that we treated under the process of writing comes into play in email. The fact that it is brief does not mean that it is careless. For the body of for the structuring of your email, the organization of your email, typically the same way you have in the process of writing, you have an opening, you have a body, you have a closing. In the opening includes who you're sending to, why you're sending, that's the subject line, and then your greeting, your salutation, depending on who you're sending to. If it's an internal email, how does the person want to be greeted? Some organizations also have name policy, greeting policy, whether it's first name or surname or titles or things like that. If you have conventions within your organization, stick to your conventions. If you don't have conventions or policies within your organization, adopt best practice. Just assume that, oh, this is a very important person, and be as cordial, as courteous as possible. Remember the 7 C's: courtesy and consideration. Assume that the person is an important person. By default, that should be your setting. So don't just say hi, hello, unless you are that level with the person, you have established relationship or the scenario allows it. That's a different case. But if you don't know the person closely, you don't have that kind of relationship with the person, assume the most formal posture as possible. Do not use work email for personal messages. That is not the platform. That is many organizations literally monitor their emails, in case you don't know. Their servers, their IT back end can see what you are sending. If they feel like investigating, if they feel like investigating a particular situation, they can look through your email to see what you have been sending. Email is not where you disclose confidential information. Assume that an email can go viral, because it can. It can be forwarded to who you don't even know. You don't know where the email will get to. So just once you are putting something out there, assume that anybody, and that is anybody, can literally see your message, whether in the short term or in the long term. That is a posture you should adopt when you're doing emails. Finally, respect hierarchies and chain of command. Respect communication channels, the hierarchies in your system. If, for instance, you need to send an email to copy another person, you need to understand whose name comes first. Things are not done randomly, even in emails. Because you can send an email, you copied ABC. Just the ordering of the names can get somebody upset. It's as simple as that. So these are things we need to consider when writing emails. I talked about the organization of your email. Your subject line must be compelling. If somebody sees your subject line, if the subject line does not communicate anything, they don't know what your email is about. They might just, okay, I'll check it later. I don't know what this one is trying to say. So the subject line is very important. It must be informative. From your subject line, I must know what your email is all about. Beyond being informative, it should also be compelling. Meaning that, yes, I can see the information, okay, it's about so, but I should also get a sense of, oh, I need to look at this email because of the number of emails we get regularly. Remember, we are competing for time and attention. Somebody's email is dropping the emails are dropping. Why would somebody leave one email and read yours? It begins with the subject line. If the subject line does not make me feel that it's something I need to look at almost immediately, I will just leave it. Okay, let me look at the other one first. Let me look at the other one. Before you know it, you have become pushed to the background. So subject line is very important. Salutation, I've mentioned that. How do you address people? If there are conventions within an organization, stick to your conventions. Otherwise, be formal, be courteous. The opening line is also important. Yes, your subject line has given us an indication of what the email is. But if your opening is such that you start going around and talking about what is not directly important to me as the reader of your email, or what I can readily respond to, or what I can readily pull out information from. Remember, we are talking brief messages. Nobody wants to spend a long time reading a long email. So right from your opening, the very first sentence, you must go straight to the point. Conciseness is a very critical thing with brief messages. And conciseness means that the meaning must be communicated upfront as quickly as possible. In your body, please avoid the temptation to write in capitals. Some people do that. Some people don't realize that it can be very offensive because it feels like you are screaming at the person, like you are telling the person that you must read what I'm writing. No, if you communicate in a way that is courteous, in a way that is coherent, in a way that is clear, we will read the message. Email is not where you are now talking about a whole lot. Email is a brief message. If you think that there's a lot you have to say, put it in a document. We will come to that when we're looking at memos. And then your closing. Don't just end your email. Okay, that is it. No. What do you want the receiver to do? That is a call to action. What action steps are you expecting? Do you want feedback? Do you want an acknowledgement, or is it just information? Do you want them to do something in particular? Specify. Don't assume that, oh, the person should know what to do. It's not always the case. Your signature line is extremely important. While some organizations have conventions for how you do your signature, some may not. For small organizations where you have your liberty to present your signature any way you can, what is important is that your name is there, your title is there, your contact details are there. So that if somebody needs to follow up, they know who has sent the message and they know who to reach out to. That's the whole essence of email, because you're not there in person to start explaining, oh, this is that and this is that. So your signature is important. If somebody needs to follow up, even beyond the email platform, it becomes easier. The same way you do not copy people that are not relevant to be copied in an email is the same way you do not reply to all if it is not important that you reply to all. For instance, somebody might have sent an email to 10, 20 people or the entire organization for the sake of convenience. All the emails are there. Everybody is receiving the email at the same time. But now you want to reply. Your reply does not concern every other person. The fact that the email was sent to everybody does not mean that your reply is to everybody. Your reply is to the person who sent the email. So you need to also be careful with that. When you are replying to an email, if the reply does not concern other people, it's just for the person who has sent the message to get feedback, then reply directly to the person, irrespective of how many people got the email. If for instance, you're working on a project, conversely, and 5 people have been copied in the email, because the 5 people have to be carried along. Everybody needs to know what everybody is doing at every stage, where we are, anybody having challenges. That's a different situation where your reply involves other people. Everybody needs to know what your reply is. In that case, you can reply to all. But if it's just, something that only the sender needs to know, you don't need to clog people's mailboxes replying to everybody. It can be very offensive. So that's very important. Maintain professional tone in an email. Remember, your email can go to places you do not even know. So these are very important about things to note about email. How is the memo different? I said, if for instance, you need to send a long email, a long message, rather than filling up the email space with an extended long conversation, you are writing that and that, you can package all of that message in a memo, especially if it's internal. If it's external, you can do a letter and then communicate the letter via email. But if it's internal within the organization and you want to say a lot, you can put all of that in an email, in a memo, and then communicate the memo via an email. These things are important. So the memo is also a formal document, primarily written for internal communication. Because it is internal, it's packaged in its own form in a document format, it has to be clear from the document who you're sending to, who is sending it, the date that it's being sent. The typical things that an email platform will capture have to be captured on a memo. So if you are to send an email, there's already the space, the button for sender, there's already the space for receiver, there's a space for subject. But in the case of an email, you have to input all of those things by yourself. That's the only way we can have a trail. That's the only way we can have a proper record of who sent what to whom, on which date, about what. So that's the whole essence about the memo. Again, some organizations have their strict memo format. You follow your format. Otherwise, once you have the basic elements, who is sending it, to whom, the date, the subject, and then the body, you're good to go. So how is a memo primarily different from the email? One, the memo is strictly official internal record. Email can be both internal and external. So you choose your channel depending on where your message is going, how formal you want it to be. There is no informal memo. Every memo is formal. An email may be a bit informal or semi-formal, but a memo is strictly official. In terms of length, because you may have more information to communicate, you can put your information in a memo format. But the email itself ideally should always be short, straight to the point. Any extra thing, put it in a memo, send the memo itself via email. You can deliver memos digitally or physically, depending on your organization. There are some organizations where they carry physical memo papers from one office to another and they're distributing. Email is strictly digital. If it's a larger organization where they have more proper structures, you can send your memo via a digital channel. In terms of tone, the email may vary by relationship, but we've said that for memo, it is strictly official. Official means that it is strictly formal. Formal, objective, no pleasantries, no, anything that suggests some kind of informal relationship. And then while you can use the email for routine communication, whatever you want to say can be done with an email, basically. In the case of a memo, most of the time, it is used for notices, updates, announcements, something new is coming up. They just want to communicate it across. So the purpose of communication, the people involved in the communication, the kind of response or feedback you need for your communication, the timing, all of those things are important in deciding whether to use an email or to use a memo. In the case of instant messaging, instant messages usually are even shorter and briefer. Although sometimes you may still have some instant messages that are email length, but instant messages usually don't come with the same kind of formality of an email. If I want to send you a WhatsApp message, for instance, I'm not going to start writing from Dr. V to root, subject, FBA 264 class. I'm not going to start doing all that. So it's a different feel with instant messaging. Instant messaging is you've already established relationship with this person you want to communicate with, whether via email or physically, whatever the situation may be. And you can now explore instant message as a follow-up strategy. Usually it may not be your first strategy if it's something really important. If you need to send something, an important information, important message, important document, you probably will first use an email and then follow up with an instant message, drawing my attention to the email. But in today's world where a lot of businesses are conducted online, including WhatsApp, some people's businesses are on WhatsApp. The communication begins and ends on WhatsApp. Transactions begin and end on WhatsApp. It becomes extremely important that the same attention to detail that you will place in an email or a memo or any other kind of communication is applied for instant messaging. The benefit of being instant is good. Somebody will easily quickly see your message. You will quickly get response. You can quickly clarify. You can quickly add, one or two things and get things moving, as opposed to send an email and then you're waiting for the person to read the email before the person now responds and all of that, But instant message gives you the benefit of fast track communication. The fast track also means that you need to have your communication skills at a certain level so that in spite of being fast, you are not breaking communication rules. So how do you handle instant messages? It should be brief and focused. There is nothing as annoying. Sometimes you go to some, especially WhatsApp groups, people will just send a long message. Like, you think that people don't have anything to do. They will sit down and start reading one message for how long? You don't do that. If you think you have something important to say, an extended message, choose another platform. Don't use WhatsApp to say one long thing and then you are scrolling and scrolling. You are still reading the same message and you're just scrolling. It's annoying to the eyes. That's been offensive because you're reading on most of the time on a mobile platform. Attention span is slim. If I needed to refer to something you said earlier, I didn't have to scroll back again. It's not convenient. It's very inconveniencing. So if it is instant message, realize that one of the fundamental things of an instant message, it must be extremely, extremely brief and focused. Go straight to the point, say what you have to say. But that it is brief does not mean it should be unprofessional. Unprofessional communication includes the content of the message itself, the packaging of the message, punctuation. We have emphasized that. Sometimes people are so quick to send instant message that they don't consider that punctuation is important. Sometimes you can get away with some things with some persons, but if it's business communication, you may not always know the disposition of the person receiving the message. Some people can be very finicky about grammar. And so you think that, because I just want to quickly send a WhatsApp message to the person and you just type the thing as if you're chatting with your friend. The person on the other side can get offended, can even decide not to read, can decide to read and not respond. So you have to be sensitive to the content, sensitive to the packaging of your message, sensitive to how the person on the receiving end will interpret your message, how it will come across, whether it will be considered courteous or rude, whether it will be considered professional or lazy. So these are some of the things you consider with instant message. We have said that if it's extremely important information, use email. That is more legally recognized. You can then follow up with an instant message if you absolutely have to, unless your business is fully on WhatsApp. I know that business is on WhatsApp, but if it's on WhatsApp, package the message. Don't just send one line. Some people want to say something and then they will break it up into 10 messages. First line, good morning. Second line, how are you? And another message. And then your phone is beeping repeatedly. Everything you have sent in 10 different messages can enter one single message, and the message will be communicated. It will be clear. So these things have to be considered. Don't assume that because, the way you chat with your friend, you're not chatting on business. If it's a business message, it's not chat, it's business communication. So if you can package your 10 individual messages in one message that is coherent, it makes sense, it flows, there's organization, there's clarity. It helps the other person on the receiving end to respond better. Not constant this message and then that message. A message is carrying 2 words and then we have to tie all the different words together to make sense of the whole thing. So these are things to consider. In the case of social media, that is the part that you're communicating with the rest of the world, basically. Remember when we talked about different types of communication? You can have group communication. In organizations, organizations now use WhatsApp, for instance, for group messaging. But when you want to communicate with the public, with the rest of the world, with everybody, you are then moving to social media. Whether it is basically for social networking like Facebook or LinkedIn, depending on the level of professionalism and the extent of the business, or for microblogging. I mean, organizations are on X promoting their brands, real-time updates. Their CEOs or their heads of organization can also be on X, sharing ideas, sharing their thoughts, just putting themselves out there to promote their brand, to keep their organization in the faces of people, get quality sentiment from the public and things like that. It can be media sharing. And in this case, whether you're doing photos or videos on maybe Instagram or YouTube, you're packaging your company products, you're putting it out there for people to know what you're selling, what you're producing, what you're into, what you do, how you help society, whatever it is you're doing, it's part of business communication. Different platforms work for different purposes. Again, for every communication, it's the same process. It's the same consideration. Even for brief messages. In the writing process, we said plan. So you're asking yourself, okay, so what do I want to communicate? Do I want to talk about me as an expert? What platform will be good for that? If you go to YouTube, for instance, and you start writing about yourself, YouTube is not where people are trying to go and read about you. You're on the wrong platform. If you want people to read about you extensively, you go to Facebook or you go to LinkedIn. If it's a very brief, communication, you just want to say something very brief about you or an idea that has come to you, you want to quickly communicate that, you can do microblogging on X, for instance, or Threads. It's not usually the best for you to take, unless if you take an extended message to X, for instance, you then have to break it up into several posts, several tweets. It becomes a tweet thread. That's one way. But usually, if you want to do professional branding, networking, there's a platform that is more suited for that. If you want to do quick communication, very brief, like the exercise we did, 15 words, go straight to the point, you can use a microblogging platform. But if you want to share media, a video, or an image, there is the primary platform for that. Some other platforms, yes, you can still share on some other platforms. You can share an image on Twitter, people will see it. You can still share video on Facebook, people will see it. But they are primary platforms for different reasons. And so what organizations now do is they look at their offering. What kind of communication are we looking at? What do we want to put out there? How do we want to communicate who we are and what we do? These are the things that determine what platforms are relevant for them. Some organizations might decide, you know what, we are doing Instagram. That one serves us because we have a lot of photos, we have a lot of videos. We want people to quickly see what we are doing. We are not into speaking English. Some other organizations are into text-based communication. And so Facebook becomes a good platform for them, or LinkedIn becomes a good platform for them. Depending on the kind of business you're doing, it will determine the kind of platform that you can use most conveniently. Sometimes it can be a community site where you engage with other people, you know, in the community. For instance, on you can actually engage with other professionals, ask questions, get feedback, that's community setting. So it depends on your purpose of your communication. Always the purpose determines the channel that you use. How do you write professional for social media? I mentioned one instance earlier about somebody wants to communicate, and because you feel that you want people to see your message, you want people to know you have posted something, you begin to tag the whole world. That's a very bad behavior. That's very unprofessional for social media, especially when it comes to business communication. You should understand that everything you put out there as a business entity, business means that whether you are the owner of the business, you are the employer, or you are an employee representing that business, whatever sentiment, whatever attitude, whatever is inspired by your communication is not just translated to that communication, but to the entire organization. So your communication is an expression of your organization. If you put out, let me give an example. There's a particular educational outfit. I know the owner of that educational institution. Now, because I know this person personally, I have offered my own suggestion as to how this person can handle social media communication. The problem is that while the person is passionate, the person is the leader of the organization, the person is passionate about his organization. And so he writes posts and puts it out there, but his grammar is really, 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 really bad. And so what happens is you come across that kind of communication. The first thing that comes to your mind is, are these people even genuine? It's not that they are writing English like, you know how some countries that are not English speaking will conjure English. You can tell that this person does not know English. So it becomes a case of you're looking at the message and you're suspicious. Is this a scammer? You know, when people if you've had experience with people who have tried to scam, you can tell from their communication that this is scam. This is not authentic. They try to copy an organization, for instance, or front as if they are the original organization. But just from their communication, you can tell that this is not genuine. So when he sends out those kind of messages, honestly, sometimes it's a little off-putting. And that kind of problem could easily have been solved by simply delegating that task to somebody who can actually communicate. In today's world, because social media has become very popular. We have people whose job description is simply to manage social media. They create content, they communicate the content, they engage with people online. That is their work. So if communication is not one of your areas of strength, you can delegate that task to somebody else. It doesn't have to be your job description. But if by virtue of your job, that is part of your job description, then there are tools to help you. We will come to that later. So, writing for social media, one, know your purpose. Why do I want to communicate? Two, who am I communicating with? The primary audience, who do I want to see this thing I want to communicate? Three, be concise and compelling. Because of the surge of content, there is so much content in the world. You open your social media platform, whatever it is, and there's just content everywhere. Everybody's trying to get your attention. The question is, why would I read your posts? Why will I care about what you have written? Because you understand that competition, you understand that it is important to be compelling. Again, you need to be professional and manage the risks that come with it. Because sometimes, in spite of all the effort you have put in, some people will misunderstand your message. You need to be ready for that. You need to be ready for, quote unquote, backlash if the message does not go well. So we have used some basic terms in the course of this class, and you will do well to familiarize yourself with some of these things. We understand what brief messages is, short and focused. We understand what email etiquette is, conventions that you must apply to guide how you write your email. Email hygiene, keep your email clean and safe. Ensure that you apply security measures. Don't share confidential information. Don't send email to people whose email does not concern. We know what a memo is. Formal, internal, written communication. It does not go outside your organization. Instant messaging, it's quick, it's straight to the point, it's concise. Your presence, we said that every communication carries the embodiment of your organization. So it's the same way that you should apply to every brief message. Understand that you are part of the message. It's not just the message in itself. Social media platforms, your subject line, these things are very important. Critical points to remember. Brief does not mean casual. We said you must apply the same professional standards, the same scrutiny, the same effort should go into your brief messages. Don't just think that, oh, because it's brief, let's just do it anyhow. The subject line is critical. If we see your subject line and it does not make us want to open your message, we probably will not open the message because there are so many messages anyway. And then understand that the email carries legal weight. Very important. Send emails properly. You don't know where the email will get to. Tomorrow, the email will be pulled out as a legal document, as a supporting document for a contract, as a document to be tendered in the law court. These things are very important. Instant message informality should not reduce professional accountability. Even an instant message can be forwarded. So it is important. If you are chatting with your friend, it's different. But once it is business message, assume the posture of full professional standards. That message can be read by the entire company. That message can be forwarded to a senior officer in the organization. That message can even be sent to somebody outside of your organization. These things are important. Every business social media post is a public statement. It's public communication. And when you're dealing with the public, there are different kinds of people. Some people will understand where you're coming from. Some people will not. Some people are attuned with your background. Some people are not. Some people are already coming with biases. Some people are coming in your favor. You need to understand you're going to be dealing with different kinds of people. And so it becomes even more important to pay attention to your public communication. So in this session, we've looked at brief messages, how they are characterized, how they are structured, how they are used, for what purposes, how to ensure that you adhere to the C's of communication across your messages, no matter how brief the message is. Once it is business communication, it's a different thing altogether. Professionalism must be maintained at all times. Do you have any questions?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, my name is Mr. Patrick. My question is on the email format that you spoke about.
Okay.
Is it the same format? Yeah, is it the same format you use if let's say a boss is writing to give information to the notice to the subordinate? Is it the same format you use as if the subordinate is writing to the boss? Is it the same from to or to from the structure?
Okay, so usually on your email portal, you are not trying to indicate where you put to or from. The portal is already there. All right. So if you are the one sending the message, you are the sender. You are the from person. Whoever you're sending to is the to person. So that template is already there. But in terms of tone, remember we said before you write anything, going through the writing process, as part of your planning, you should understand your audience. So if you are the boss writing to a subordinate, for instance, the tone might be slightly different from if you're the subordinate writing to your boss. Every communication must be courteous. True. But there is also hierarchy. There is power dynamics. I think I said something about that. So you need to understand that if you are writing to your boss, there is extra layer of respect for hierarchy that must be put into consideration. How you communicate with your boss is not the same way you would communicate with somebody who you are requesting information from as some if a person is reporting to you. So tone is very important. Understanding people themselves also come into play. And that's part of audience analysis. And that is part of audience analysis. If you already know the person you are writing to, you understand, and both of you have that relationship, it's easy to modulate the tone to suit the occasion. But you might be writing an email to somebody you don't really know well. So we said that in such an instance, adopt full formal posture. Assume that this person is extremely important. Be extremely courteous. It's always better to err on the side of caution. Be as courteous as possible, irrespective of the situation. But because of power dynamics, when a boss is writing to a subordinate, he might not feel that sense of needing to be extra cautious. You know, so people would, in communicating orally, at every end of every sentence, there's a sir. Now, you don't have to do that in an email because, you know, in a written communication, it's different. If you begin to see every line and you're ending with, yes, sir. Okay, so, sir, I want to ask, sir. It looks like you're patronizing. So even if you do that in oral communication, don't do that in an email. Okay? Have I answered your question? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning, ma'am. Okay, now regarding the emailing order, let me just say the messages. When you are ending your message, is it right or you're beginning it? Is it right we use the small capital letter when you're saying, dear ma'am? The ma'am, is it supposed to be a small letter or a capital letter?
Okay, so I addressed that when I asked you to send your request for extension of assignment. Yeah. I mentioned something about punctuation. There were also capitalization issues. Now, the thing with salutation, when you use sir or ma to refer to a person, you're using it in the place of the person's name. So ideally, if you are writing a person's name and you're starting with a capital letter, in the same vein, if you're using Sama in replacement of the person's name, it should also be capitalized. So you're using a particular framework. You're not just writing Sama because it's a word, you're using that in place of the person's name. So instead of, say, for instance, dear John, you say dear sir. If you're going to use capital letter for J, you should also use capital letter for S. It just makes it a bit more courteous.
Okay.
People use small letters because you're writing fast and you're not really paying attention to what you're doing. But ideally, you should use a capital letter. It's more respectful.
Thank you.
Do you have other questions? Somebody was raising her hand just now. Who's that?
Okay, ma'am. Now I learned that MA is for someone that is like your mother. You don't use MA. That you should always use ma'am.
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 Okay. Now, let me address that. Communication is very cultural. The standard English, if you are writing to a British, for instance, or you're writing standard British English conventions, ma is not a word you use for every female person you want to address. So that is correct in that context. Ideally, if you want to salute, you either say dear sir or dear madam. And the shortened version of madam is ma'am. That's the M-A apostrophe A-M. But you see, remember we said audience analysis. If you're writing to a Nigerian audience, when I mean a Nigerian audience, you're writing to a female boss who is very traditional, very culturally Nigerian, who does not understand that British convention, that in standard English, the ideal thing is ma'am. If you write ma'am to that person, the person does not the person literally feels that you are not respecting my age. Am I not old enough to be your mother? Can you not greet me as ma? If you look around, some people have had such experiences where they got into trouble simply because they didn't call somebody ma. Now, that does not make it right. Now, that does not make it right, okay? So the ideal thing is ma'am. If you feel that you're not likely to get into trouble for that, that should be your standard. But if you are dealing with somebody, if it's an email, for instance, and you're not sure where the email will get to, it's better you just say madam. Ma'am may feel informal for that person and a little disrespect, but okay, madam, okay, she called me madam, I can still do it, madam. So you have to be sensitive to who you're writing to, the audience, and the possible extended audience that may read your communication. If it's a simple instant messaging, you want to send a WhatsApp message to a very elderly woman who is very culturally oriented. In fact, some people will use mommy because that makes them feel good. It will make you if that makes you get what you want, good for you. Understand your audience. That is the most important thing, and adjust to your audience.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I think that has been a good one. I said I would mention something about, yes, so sometimes you have your message. If you feel that you need help to clean up your message, you can use AI. Don't say because it's brief message, you just send it. Put the message on an AI chat box. Ask the thing to clean it up for you. Revise it for you. Make it more appealing. Make it, the type that somebody will read and want to respond. So you have that option. Ensure that you apply these principles to every communication situation. as much as is possible. Communication is not what you sit down and learn in class and then you go and read in a textbook and then you write exam. Communication is what you use in everyday life. Finally, find opportunities to discuss and explore your ideas one with another. I hope you have had a good class today.
Yes, ma'am.
The class is incredible, ma'am. Thank you so much.
All right. All the best.
Good day, ma. Kindly send these slides to us.
I'll send it through route.
Okay. Thank you.
All right then.